You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are patterned. Every result in your life, your health, your relationships, your finances, your peace, tracks back to a program running beneath the surface. You didn't consciously choose it, and you absolutely have the power to change it. Welcome to Enable No More, Take Back Your Power, the podcast for cycle breakers, pattern disruptors, and anyone ready to stop giving their power away and start leading their life today. I'm your host, Jen McCutcheon, personal power, trauma, and recovery coach, speaker, author, and disruptor. And this is where awareness becomes agency, legacy-level healing, and the root system of recovery. Let's dive in and take back your power. Welcome back to the show. I am super excited today to be introducing a very special guest, Margaret Wallis Duffy, who is a healthcare entrepreneur. She's a registered massage therapist and clinic owner with over 34 years of clinical experience and the founder of FAM, Preventative Health Awareness Month and Movement, recognized by Health Canada. This is a grassroots movement with over 95 healthcare practitioners and professionals who have come together, committed to changing the legacy of healthcare through prevention, education, and patient empowerment. And I am a proud FAM ambassador. We are building a family. And just full disclosure, because this is always keeping it real here, Margaret has a very dear, special place in my heart as my cousin. We are family. We are PHAMILY, family, in preventative health as well. So as we know here, we are cycle breakers. Margaret is a heart-led leader and a woman who saw a gap in the system and has courageously been speaking about this her entire career because she knows that we can create something better and we do it better together. So welcome, Margaret, to the show. There's so much more. She is a host of Becoming the CEO of Your Health Hub and a powerhouse advocate, really, with one simple truth, that we are all part of our health journey. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
You know what, Jen, what an introduction, and I'm thrilled to be here. And it's one of the things that I love most about what you said is the piece about collaboration and transparency. No one person has all the answers. No one system can solve things. But when we work better together, when we think better together, and when we empower people through in education and collective understanding that we all want something different, amazing things can happen. And so what an honor, yes, you are my cousin, you were my junior bridesmaid, but what I've really enjoyed over the last few, and watching you grow into an entrepreneur yourself, but also a heart-led leader that really has walked through your own journey and wants to take their story to help others, not with all the answers, not in silos, but in collaboration where everyone has a voice at the table. And watching and having the privilege of watching you grow and have to walk through some really challenging times, I respect immensely the courage and the strength that you've shown, the refinement in the way that you're doing things. And that attracts other like-minded people. And that's what the preventative health movement is doing. I'm just holding the reins tight because man, oh man, in 4 short years, this thing is taking off. But as you said, it's been 34 years in the making.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing because, again, from a little girl, I remember looking up to you and really admiring your voice, your presence, and the way that you have always walked through life. And I know it's not about being perfect. It's about continuing to show up and being able to really witness you from just a little girl and doing all the things that we did together, but also just being able to witness you in all the stages as you've moved through it. But even more so in this space now where I see you just stepping into you've always shared so openly, but now it's like there is this passion, there is this, and this scale that you are touching, and that impact that you're having and the growth that is happening in the FAM movement. and just witnessing how, again, I'm a cycle breaker. I'm somebody that wants to make change happen, and we do it better together. So I'm just like, it's super powerful to be in those circles of people who are solution focused. And I believe we all, and this is the invitation always, come join, right? Come join
Yes.
this movement, whatever, wherever you are, to make this place a better place to live healthier, happier, not just longer, but healthier and happier lives, right? We can all do this together from this collective community based mindset and action. Action.
Yes, yes, Jen. And also with a lot less judgment and breaking down some silos. We all
Mhm.
have our own strengths, we all have our own training. And here's what I know, and I've had the privilege of doing this for 34 years now. I have learned from so many of my colleagues, both in conventional and complementary medicine. Notice I didn't say alternative. I don't believe that you see your doctor or your psychologist or your surgeon or you see your massage therapist or your naturopath or your yoga instructor. I believe that we should break down those silos and we're better together where we can learn and grow from one another because it doesn't matter what your training is. I am a proud registered massage therapist. I am also got a background in kinesiology from the University of Waterloo. I've done lots of other certifications in a wide range of things. I got my professional designation in age as a consultant in aging. I've done extensive work with special needs children and babies in terms of the power of touch. But here's what I know from running an integrative clinic, and I know we're going to get into my history, which will give some context to this. I always want to, and I credit my parents for this, keep your hands on, your heart open, and your ego aside so that you can learn and grow from one another. When
Mhm.
you start to believe that you have all the answers and you have the only way, this is where we see a system that's strained, broken, and struggling. I have mad respect for the healthcare professionals like the doctors and the specialists that I work with, and I learn from them. But here's what I also know: I have a lot of knowledge, and strong people are willing to lean in and grow and learn from one another. And when we do that, when we're better together and when we learn and grow from one another with one key point, and that is that the everyday person is the most important member of that healthcare team, that patient. It's not about being a passive person, a passive participant in your health. It's about being an active member. You're the most important member of your healthcare
Yeah.
team. And when healthcare professionals from both sides of the equation, conventional, allopathic, and complementary, are willing and ready to embrace the patient being at the center and them having a voice, not because they're going to be Dr. Google, not because they have their own, they want to challenge the system, but because we know our bodies, our minds, and our souls best. And when we come together, all of us, with discernment, yes, but with egos aside and not judgment and a willingness to earn and learn, boy, oh boy, magic happens. When you're seeing a cardiologist learning from someone else and a gynecologist learning from somebody else, and I'm learning from them all, this is what building this preventative health movement is about. And this is why I think it's having momentum, because it's an inclusive campaign from pregnancy through to palliative care. But everyone has a voice at the table in their lane so that you're not saying things that you shouldn't be saying, but that you're open to making sure that, oh, something else might help someone too.
Yeah. And you said so much there. One, from the professional perspective around, I always say when somebody says that they know something, I always think they know nothing. And I take this to myself. When I think that I know everything about this thing, I know nothing. I have limited myself in that thinking. And from professionals to opening themselves up, because a lot of again, the training that you have, the
Yes.
education that you've had, it's so valuable, but it's not everything. And if we can, as professionals, maintain that openness to go, okay, what more can I learn?
Yes.
If we are limiting ourselves as professionals, if we think we know everything, because we don't. And so
Well,
that's one part of it, right? Then you talk about the individual and not being the Dr. Google, because we can go to Google and we can try to chase our symptoms and figure out and self identify or self diagnose ourselves, which is not great either. But also recognizing we are the ones that know our bodies. And I want to say, because we have been in this system of waiting for the doctor to fix us, right? Wait till it's broken. We also have become so disconnected, which is what I work with people around, is that disconnection from self, where we stop listening to our bodies. We stop listening to what our internal compass is saying. Something's not right. No, we just ignore it and we think, oh, it'll be fine. Or I'll go to the doctor and they'll tell me. And I've been there where you finally get to the doctor once you've known for a long time something's not right. And then it's, oh, just take this pill or just take this medication, or oh, it's within normal range, you're fine. It's like, but it's not fine. So it's like giving that voice back to people, to one, listen to their bodies, listen to that internal knowing that is there, and maybe educate yourself. Do some Google searches, look at some information, go to some reputable sources, ask those questions, and then go to your doctor, your professional, your healthcare professional with information. That I always say, I want to make an informed decision. I don't want to just be told
Yes.
what I need to do. I want to be part of the conversation. And I think I know that's what you're talking about. But for our listeners, it's like, how do we activate that part within yourself? Activate that inner knowing, remembering, discerning for yourself, and then going to your doctor as part of that member of your healthcare. You are that person. You are that.
100%. Without a doubt, we have to take responsibility and accountability for our own
Right.
well-being. Doctors have incredible knowledge and years of schooling, but they don't know everything. And being a passive participant in your health does a disservice both to the physician and to yourself. Listening to those whispers and honoring that, you don't have to have all the answers. But when you start to get curious,
Yes.
and you start to listen, and like you said, you bring in and you reliable sources, you ask to gain more information, you ask to look into things further in collaboration and partnership with your entire integrative health team. All of a sudden, that heavy weight both on the practitioner and on the patient is lessened. We have a healthcare system that is literally collapsing underneath us. And a big part of that is the disempowerment of everyday people waiting for someone else to fix them, save them,
Yeah.
make this better. Whereas we know if we actually start to get curious, and it's in the quiet moments, it's in the day to day. What are we eating? How are we moving? How do we think? The lifestyle medicine, and don't get me wrong, I am a proud Canadian and I'm grateful to have access to acute health care when we need it. Thank heavens. I
Yeah.
know many in my personal family this last year would have walked through it very intimately. I'm grateful for that. There is a time and a place for pharmacology as well. When you hear my story, which I'm sure you're going to want me to share, you'll
Yes.
hear about that. There is a place for it, but it should not be the front line of defense. Healthcare is exactly about that, taking care of our health, which is nutrition, which is movement, which is a mindset, which is a community. And when we have an acute thing that we now have modern science that maybe this medication or that intervention is best, thank heavens for it. But that's when we hit sick care. There is this,
Exactly.
what I call the opportunity gap, where you're healthy here and over here the alarm bell goes off, where you finally get that diagnosis, where that you're told you have diabetes, or your blood work shows you have cancer, or your DEXA, or if I prefer your REMS bone scan says, oh boy, you're not just your density, but your quality of bone is in trouble. You're at a high risk of fracture. Here's the good news. Knowledge is power, but in between where we're feeling well and when we're sick, as you so eloquently said, there's all kinds of whispers that we ignore, we push aside, we're too busy, or maybe we have tried to voice it and we're dampened because
Yes.
it's not validated, because it hasn't shown up yet in a test. I encourage you,
Yeah.
even when it's not showing up yet, if you feel it, you need to act. And that doesn't mean you have to wait for your doctor to have an answer. It means that you can then take some ownership to become the CEO of your health and start to get curious about your own body. Start to track things. What am I really eating? And when
Mm,
I eat this thing, how do I feel? Forget about counting calories and being so worried about the way we look. How does food make you feel? I've got the
Yeah.
CEO of your health hub launching, and we have a almost an 80-page workbook that's literally helping people do things like this. How does food make you feel, so you can track it, so that when you're in front of your physician, oh, because food can be inflammatory, food
Yes.
can be depleting. What's your sleep cycles like, and how do you feel with that? You don't have to
Yeah.
have all the fancy gadgets, although there's great trackable things on apps now and wearables, but not everybody has the money to do that. You can start to listen. When you go for a walk, how do you feel? When you have a call with a friend, when you start to take some ownership, there is a cascade, and this is actually hormonal and scientific, that we can change our biology. Starts here, and that cascade of what it will do, all of a sudden there's now momentum. And then in collaboration, when you go to see your doctor, you have a lot of evidence to say, I know I'm within normal range, but here's how I feel, here's when I felt it, here's how I felt it. And don't take no for an answer. I'm
Mhm.
still curious.
Yeah.
When you hear my story, I'm still in the curious mode 34 years in, but it took me more than a decade to get a diagnosis for a serious disease that I was told it was all in my head.
Yeah. So let's go there, Marg, because we could talk and talk about, and we will continue to talk because it's so important. These conversations are so needed on so many levels. Talk about this is about breaking cycles, this is about disrupting patterns. This podcast is about taking back your power. And everything that you just talked about are all things that every single one of you listening can do today. Sleep, movement, nutrition, right? Community, socialization, all those things are things that are all in our power. We don't need anybody to do anything for us with those things that we just mentioned. Do you need to learn a little bit more? Do you need to look into some of that stuff? Absolutely. But they're all things that we can do. So there's so much that we can talk about and we will continue to talk. But I think it is really important for listeners to hear your story because you didn't just get here by reading a book. While you did lots of study, lots of training, lots of knowledge behind you, but there's personal experience here, which is invaluable. So I'd love for you to just take us back to where this all began for you on a personal level.
Yeah, this one gets me every time, and it's really immediately the tears start to surface because even though it's almost 40 years ago, I'm living with this every single day. So, as a young girl, full of hope and promise and excitement for life and my peers, I was did gymnastics at a competitive level. I had a lot of energy. I had all these hopes and dreams, and I have a beautiful family. My parents breathed belief into me from day one that I could do anything, be anything. My father, rest his soul, one of my biggest teachers, as is my mom, but in different ways. My dad really taught me that you need to use your voice, and my mom brought the resilience as well to keep on going, and regardless of the obstacles ahead of you. So when I started as a young girl, 10, 11 years of age, when I had my first menarche, my first period, and actually, if you talk to my mom and her brothers and sisters, we know we come from I'm an only child, Jen, but we have our parents are one of 13 siblings. I am the proud, my name, Margaret Elizabeth, was our grandmother's name, and our grandmother gave birth to 15 children.
15.
And
Let's just take 15.
15 children,
Yeah.
bless her heart, and didn't live very old.
Yeah.
She died early, and my mom was pregnant with me when my grandmother was dying of cancer, and my mom was nursing her. And she looked at her mom and said, Mom, is there anything I can do for you? And she said, now she had named 8 boys and 5 girls because 13 lived out of those 15 children,
That's right.
sadly. And grandma looked at her and pointed at my mom's belly and said, if that's a little girl, will you name her after me? I've not named a child after me. Now, unbeknownst to me, I was just swimming around in there having a grand old time. My mom and dad, my name was supposed to be Melissa Hope. And in the middle, grandma passed away in March. I was born in May. So my mom was very pregnant, nursing her dying mother. Not an easy time.
Yeah.
And when I was born, our grandfather, rest his soul, Howard, our grandpa, he came into the hospital, and my dad thought he was grieving and kind of cuckoo because he came in and said, where's Margaret Elizabeth? Because My dad was not aware. My mom forgot to tell him that, of course, my mom said, yes, Howard or Dad, or Mom, I will name her after you. But my dad didn't know that. So my dad thought I was Melissa Hope, but in comes Grandpa calling me Margaret Elizabeth. And so I am. So why am I telling you this story? Because our families, my mom and dad, have always been my biggest supporter and my advocates. And as a young girl, even as a young baby, all of our aunts and uncles, I had colic, I was screaming, and everybody just thought they needed to parent differently. They need to do this, they need to do that, because I was hell on wheels. What I didn't know, and at 11 years of age, when I had my first period, I was having excruciating pain. And as a young girl with your first period, you don't know what this is about. And I thought, I guess everybody has this. And as it progressed year on year, and the pain was debilitating, and my parents would take me from doctor to doctor, to surgeon, to specialist, only to be told that I was a hypersensitive only child, that I was a drug seeking teen, because imagine if you're in excruciating pain, that you would want to be out of that pain. I wanted answers because my friends were out living their lives and going to parties and having fun. And I was hurtled in a ball or in a hospital room in absolutely excruciating pain. And watching my parents struggle, feeling helpless and desperate to get answers. Hypersensitive only child, drug seeking teen, competitive athlete with a nervous stomach. It went on for a decade, until that fateful day when I'd been in hospital many times in university, and here's the thing, Jen, when you start being told on a regular basis that there's nothing wrong, or that it's all in your head, or that it's not that bad, or this was one of my least favorite, oh, you're sick again? Because you'd missed this family function, or you'd missed that occasion, and my parents would too. Oh, you're sick again? You start to believe it. You start to believe that something, maybe I am, maybe it is all in my head, when I knew I was in excruciating pain. My belly was distended out, looking like I was 6 months pregnant. I'd be vomiting. The pain was horrific. And finally, in university, 20 years of age, landing in hospital time and time again, I looked at this surgeon, said, I'm not leaving this hospital till you find out what's wrong with me, because something is wrong. I know it. That inner voice, I knew. And I said, I'm not leaving here till you find out. And he said, it could be something called, it's called endometriosis, but you look fine. And I looked at him. I didn't even know how to say the name endometriosis, let alone know what it was. And I said, how do you determine that? We'd have to do surgery. I said, then we're doing surgery. I'm not leaving here. I do not know how I found that voice. It was from inside. It just came out. And that was the beginning of my advocacy work for 34 years. Because I'll tell you, when they went in, they found out I had one of those worst forms of endometriosis. It had spread. And the 10 years, that was just the beginning of my story, Jen. In the 10 years following, 10 surgeries, 4 bowel obstructions with nasogastric tubes going down because of endometriosis on my bowel. I had thoracic endometriosis that caused a lung collapse 6 weeks before I wrote my government board exams for massage therapy. I had to leave University of Waterloo early because I had to come home to get help and have surgeries. But because I'm a doer and a type A personality, and I was conditioned, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. Nobody was believing me. Then I looked into massage therapy because I saw a massage therapist in that time before my surgeries. And this person caught my attention, the power of touch, and the person listening one-on-one with me. I thought, wait a minute, maybe massage therapy is what I need to do, because they had such an impact on me. And I had to be close to Toronto where my doctors were. So I went back and went to school. But before I wrote my government exams for massage therapy, my lung collapsed because I had it on my lung. And I was told for a week in hospital, oh no, you've just got some shoulder pain. I'm like, I know shoulder pain. This is something serious. My lung had collapsed. I went through menopause at the age of 39. I've had infertility issues. Our children are 6 years apart. I'm blessed to have 2 kids, but they're 6 years apart because of endometriosis. Yeah. But here's what I know. 34 years ago, actually more than that, 40 years ago, endometriosis wasn't even talked about. In fact, it's only been in the last 3 to 4 years that specialists, gynecologists, are waking up and starting to do research to say, this is not a bad period. This is not a hysterical woman's thing. This is a neurological, immune, chronic, non-curable inflammatory disease that it can impact the inside of the lining of the uterus, or endometrial type tissue ends up outside of the uterus on other places in the body. For me, I've told you a few: my bowel, my bladder, my lung, my appendix, which was taken out. It ate away at my uteral sacral ligament, which caused instability when I was pregnant and I was on bed rest. It has been a journey, but only now are they starting to say, oh, wait a minute here. Oh, and you get pregnant. That was what I was told. Just get yourself pregnant and everything will be fine. It's a major cause of infertility.
Yeah.
The amount of trauma for not being listened to, not my parents' fault. They were my cheerleaders and advocates. But what it did do, it was a gift, Jen. I didn't know it then, but I opened Wallis for Wellness 34 years ago, April the 6th, because I wanted a clinic that I didn't have, that I needed. One that would break down the silos in healthcare, bring the conventional medical professionals together with the complementary ones, and to help make every patient in that clinic of mine listened to, heard, ignited, empowered, so they could act. And when I did that, and over the course of 30 years, it organically grew into a successful, award-winning, integrative, and preventative health clinic long before it was cool to be talking about this.
Exactly.
In fact, way long before. I called it Wallis and Associates deliberately back then because it sounded like a law firm, and I didn't have hands in my logo because I'm a massage therapist. And back then I wouldn't hang my diploma because it said masseuse. The last thing I am is a masseuse. But breaking cycles and patterns and thought processes, I knew I was a therapist. I am a registered massage therapist, 34 years practicing, that proudly hangs the diploma when it became under the Regulated Health Professions Act many years ago. I hung my diploma, but I showed how a massage therapist at the center of the wheel could bring all the people together: mental health professionals, psychologists, doctors, naturopaths, midwives, surgeons, occupational therapists, you name it, breathwork people, yoga, trauma-informed people, all together. And I opened my heart and my mind to be a sponge to learn for 30 years. And when I decided to close the clinic 4 years ago in April, when I reached that 30-year mark, I was feeling called to do something bigger because I knew what I'd seen and witnessed inside those walls at Wallis for Wellness, that we were in a crisis in this world and in our country. This pill for no, wait till it's broken sick care is not working. We must help to empower everyday people, and we must be doing this integratively together. And so I sat right here at this spot where I'm doing this podcast right now. After I sold my clinic, by the way, we had 45,000 patients in our database. I'd earned, not I, we collectively at Wallis for Wellness earned an 80 to 90% doctor referral rate. How do you get that? You get that from getting outcomes. You get that from collaborating. You get that from putting egos aside and learning and growing from one another. And therefore, doctors would say, oh, how'd you do that? Oh, what is that? Here, refer to me. I refer to them. You get that from hard, consistent work, not on an Instagram reel, not when people just think you're doing it, but every day for 30 years. Yeah. So when I sold the clinic, I felt pulled to do something greater. And I sat at this chair and I wrote an application to Health Canada. And I told them my personal story, painted a picture of the strife and the hard years that was, painted a picture of Wallis for Wellness and together what we had created as a team. And that I had a vision for a legacy of healthcare for my kids and future grandkids that we could all be proud of. One that would break down silos in healthcare, bring both sides of the equation together, but with one mission: to make the everyday Canadian the center of their care so they could be the CEO of their health. And how do we do that? We do that in a broad sense of the word. We do that through research and education. We do that through podcasts. We do that through collaborative books like the one I'm leading and you're in, along with 14 others. We do that with going to universities and talking to them about new devices that we're bringing to the country and doing, whether that be the REMS bone scan or the new thermography that's not the typical thermography that's been badly positioned. No, one where it's looking at inflammation with standard of care. we're being innovators. And I said to Health Canada that I wanted to ask all these healthcare professionals that have supported me to help for the month of February, give free education to stock the toolbox of Canadians. And then the cheeky side of me and the tenacious side of me said I was going to do it regardless, but I'd really love for them to recognize it. But I was going to do it anyway. And the next email I sent was to about 40 healthcare professionals from all walks and disciplines. And I sat here in tears when the emails kept coming in from doctors and naturopaths and you name it, saying, yes, Margaret, we want to be part of this. We are now in year 4, Preventative Health Awareness Month and Movement, because it's not just about a 1-month advocacy awareness campaign. It's about putting prevention in action. So the minute March 1st hits, all year long, we're working in the trenches, doing things, events, various things to create legacy change, in getting all levels of government engaged, having conversations with insurance companies. And now we are up over 95 healthcare professionals, as you said, and climbing every day. Organizations saying, we want to be part of the family. This is grassroots, unfunded. In fact, we're spending money and raising money and gifting money. Fam gifts money, which is a big part of this mission. And it's Health Canada recognized, not funded, but recognized. Why? Because we're doing the work. And I know that when we breathe belief into others, when we empower people with the education, and when we do it in community, together we can change. It's not going to be overnight. We have to shift mindsets, shift systems, but it can be done. And I'm going to finish my story by saying this, and it's something I'm incredibly proud of. A shout out to the Toronto Metropolitan School of Medicine, which just opened last September in Brampton, the campus is, where I had my practice for 30 years. They are going to graduate future doctors to be trained more in preventative and integrative medicine, because they recognize that we need both, that it can't just be pharma first. There's a place for that, but that we have to help people be healthy and lifestyle. But that's not the doctor's training. It's not their fault. It's not in the curriculum. They can't be everything to everyone.
No.
Therefore, they now have a medical school that's going to graduate future doctors. I am one of only 3 allied health professionals that are on the curriculum advisory board of that medical school. I've earned a seat there. I'm going to have a loud voice there, but I'm also there to learn from the brilliant people around me as they are to learn from me. And that's how, not overnight, but generations to come, that's how we will change the legacy of healthcare in this country. So it's my own story that has launched this, but I'm still living my story. I'm still struggling with endometriosis to this day, but I will not let it define me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Honestly, Mark, I think so many of our listeners will resonate with your story because they're going to hear their story in yours. And that's really what I believe is our greatest gift, is sharing our stories, because what I've experienced is similar to what you've experienced in different ways, in different challenges. And the message here is that you are not powerless. You're powerful in leading your life, your health, and also recognizing that you're not alone in the journey, that there are warriors just like Margaret and I and so many others who are starting so passionately. You can hear your passion. I mean, I can see your passion. Anybody who's around you feels it, senses it, knows it, because you've lived it and you know the struggle. When we aren't seen, when we aren't heard, when we are telling somebody there's something wrong, and you're being told that you're just making it up. I've been there too. It's like just in your head, or they're missing it. They're not asking the questions. They're just trying to label you and give you a prescription and shoo you out the door. It's like, we need to open that lens up. And when you've lived something like that, you're compassionate to people that are experiencing that. Sometimes the healthcare system, the professional, they don't have the answer. I've just been experiencing that with my own loved ones, right? That are struggling with their healthcare. They don't necessarily know yet. There's things that have to be looked into. But if you're not even given a chance to have that further exploration, and you're just told there's nothing wrong, must be in your
Or
head.
there's only one way. And that's, I think,
Right.
where we fall short, because there isn't ever only one way.
No.
There are many ways. And we don't want to muddy the waters. And yes, you should do this in consultation with your healthcare team. But that's really a critical piece, I think, that we're missing in our system, is actually recognizing that when this doesn't work, this might, or this might work now, but this might later. And to in science, I mean, let's really talk scientifically. Things are proven until they're disproven.
Yeah.
And when we have evolution of technology or evolution of research, or when we know better, we should do better, but we say stay because it's comfortable, stay so tightly clung to what's always been, even when it doesn't serve us. And there's a time and a place for pharmacology. I'm the first to admit that there have been times where,
Absolutely.
yes, but it's also making people sick. And it's it being the only solution of polypharmacy, walking polypharmacy, where people are just give a pill for an ill and then a pill for the side effect of that one. But there's the disempowerment. There's now the not, what else can we do? How else can we work together? Instead of we just push it away, that's fluff and stuff, or I've got broad shoulders for a reason. Because for 34 years, I've swam upstream, had a lot of naysayers, but I also bring the evidence because I'm a science girl. I'm a geek that way. I love to understand the science. I love to challenge it as well. Whenever somebody doesn't, and I just actually had a very tough discussion with a well respected specialist, and I will not name them, but a well respected specialist who will not even entertain some new research in the bone health space because it's not the standard of care, the gold standard of care. The gold's starting to tarnish. And if evidence is coming in and research is coming in that's saying, oh, maybe the gold standard's not the be all and the end all, to not even be open to listening, looking at the latest updated research, even let's have a debate about that. What don't you like about that? I'm not saying I've got all the answers. I'm not saying this is the right and only technology. But when a specialist or a practitioner of any kind says, I have the answer, this is the way we've always done it, and they're not open to saying, that's not science, actually. And that's where I get frustrated. What I've seen in my work professionally and translating that into advocating for my loved ones, whether it be my children, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, my community, is never saying, challenging a doctor about what they're saying, but rather challenging them to listen to a broader perspective and to embrace that we want to work together. That changes and disarms people because now all of a sudden I have mad respect for their knowledge, but I also know where there's limitations.
Yeah.
And I know where I have knowledge. And how do you need that entrance point? You've got to find common ground. And that's what this preventative health movement is doing. It's giving tools, resources, and voice to people. My voice wasn't heard. I've created so many different platforms, the clinic, television. For years, I was a regular guest on big shows like City Line. And long before I didn't know how to do TV, I saw it as an educational vehicle because I wanted to share my story. Because just talking about something without doing it doesn't create transformation. So I had to find a way to empower people to not only listen to, but to start to do. So there's my clinic, and now there's the podcast, there's the book that's coming, there's the hub that's happening, there's the events that we do. It's now got a momentum happening. But the minute we close ourselves down to that, I am the biggest skeptic. I'm going to
Yeah.
say this, thermography 10 years ago, 11 years ago, if somebody came to my clinic, I looked at this and I'm like, it's a reflection on me. I've built a reputation in the medical community. I didn't like what I saw. It wasn't standard of care. It was their positioning. Oh, don't go get a mammogram, do this. No. Fast forward 10 years later, there is new information, new standards of practice, new technology in this space. And I'm like, oh, that's what I was waiting for. Same with bone health. Musculoskeletal health is my wheelhouse. DEX has been the gold standard forever. Now there's something called the REMS bone scan that looks at density and quality, and the mounting research that says that quality is a better predictor of fracture. And as you said, what's in our control? Our lifestyle. Are we eating enough protein? Are we getting sleep? What's our gut doing? Are we lifting weights? That helps
Are
build
we
bone
are we
quality.
managing our chronic stress? I
Stress,
mean,
exactly.
there's the stress that we're so many people under so much stress, and unprocessed stress and unmanaged stress it leads to disease, dis-ease in the mind and the body, which is creating the illnesses that people are showing up with and going to the doctors with, that are overburdening our healthcare system because there isn't prevention, right? So it's
Exactly.
like
Correct.
yeah. And when you're not addressing the bigger picture, I've walked through this with my own health issues that were chronic stress related, the impacts of 25 years of loving my loved ones experiencing addiction and not knowing how to manage my own emotions and process my emotions, witnessing I'm going through with my parents right now, and hospitalizations and decline in health. And you said it, getting curious. And it's not about saying the doctor doesn't know what they're doing, but opening up their scope of what's going on, the things that they don't know about. And from a place of curiosity, I've witnessed doctors get very, and they're all different moments in time where you're questioning because they're not used to being questioned, and they
Correct.
take offense to being questioned, but it's doing it in a way that is curious and letting them know that you just want to be part of the conversation, right?
And you've seen that it's all in a delivery. And
It's in the delivery.
when you have a voice in a respectful but firm, because we have to have confidence. Being the CEO of your health is all about building confidence, and confidence is a muscle. It
Yeah,
doesn't happen overnight. It's very intimidating. I don't even know what to ask because I don't know. But if you start to get curious, and then you have conversation, not from the place that I'm judging you, you're not doing something, or I know better. No,
exactly.
doctors actually, all the ones that I know, you might first get the bristle, absolutely, and that's not their fault either. That's the system that they've been raised
Exactly.
in.
Yeah.
That's the structure that they're living in. It's not their fault, and they have tremendous knowledge and skills. They don't have all the answers, but how human of them. Imagine somebody having all the answers. That's just crazy to me. So instead, it's in the delivery of coming from a place of curiosity, of mutual respect, and of solution based, patient empowered care. Now, all of a sudden, oh, the guard goes down because they're not feeling attacked. They
Yeah.
are strained because there is a healthcare system strained. They don't have the resources that they want. They don't have the training for all these things that everybody wants them to be, everything that they can't be, because
Yeah.
they don't have the training, and they don't know where to refer, which is why we have the FAM directory, the first of its kind ever, an integrative health directory for all people, where you can search by type of practitioner, type of illness, because there's not one practitioner if you've got diabetes that you need to see, or if you're struggling with mental health and addiction, or if you have endometriosis. Who's on your team? You might need several people on your team, but you might not even know who should be on the team. And I'm building that with all these ambassadors as we grow, so it can be a trusted resource for family health teams. They are doing their best
They
in a
really are.
strained system,
Yeah.
and we have to play a role in that. You can go out on a Saturday in the summer and people shining their $60,000 car, and they've got their woofers and their puff this and then that. They're spending all this money on their vehicles. But if you ask people to invest in their health, time or money, oh, does OHIP cover that? That's changing. And don't get me wrong, for all the haters out there, I want people to have the most access to healthcare.
Yeah, of
But
course.
we make informed decisions in our life day to day. We can spend money and go buy that bottle of wine that we want, although we know it's not great for our health and we can afford to do that, or that dinner out. But the minute somebody says, oh, but what about if you had to invest in your health and you had to pay for this test or pay for that treatment? Oh, this isn't good. I want access to care. And I'm grateful when we have acute care in this country. I've never been more proud to be Canadian. And we also need to take some ownership. We
Absolutely.
don't get to just complain about a system that we don't do anything about. And that comes from my parents. Stop complaining unless you're going to pull up your big girl panties and do something about it. And that is what FAM is about, doing something and empowering other people to do it. And that's why I love your podcast about taking your power back to collectively, individually, as a society. It is about breathing belief into people when they don't believe in themselves, so that they too can then share their story. We're seeing this in 4 short years with FAM. And I know he's going to be on your show and he's been on other podcasts that you've done, Luke Laughlin, I met, and I don't want to spoil it, but 4 years ago, 3 and a bit years ago,
Yeah.
him walking through his own journey with addiction and mental health, and a very powerful story. He's in the book. FAM and all the tools and connections, but he had to take ownership of that and walk through this. Watching the transformation of Luke in that short order,
Yeah.
because he's taken ownership. He said, yeah, I'm part of the problem. And I'm also going to get help from a wide range of people. And together we're going to get into action and share my story so that gives permission for other people to do the same. It's such a robust movement. It is not just about, it's not just an online campaign of reels. No, guys, this is far more in depth, far more comprehensive, and far more impactful. When we have in our book one of the Canada's leading ICU doctors writing the foreword,
Yes. Yes.
because he's saying, Dr. K, he doesn't want you to end up in the ICU. And he's saying a lot of these things that people are in the ICU of, it was preventable. Not all things.
Yeah.
And horrible things happen, without a doubt. And we can also do our best in preventing those things so that we can live well at every age and stage of life with health span, not just lifespan. Because I'd rather check out early
Agreed.
than to spend the decade of decline like so many
Oh,
people do in our country. There's research on this, Jen. The decade of decline, the last 10 years of most Canadians' lives are fraught with multiple diseases and hospitalizations because we haven't looked at prevention and patient empowerment. But we have the opportunity now for generations to come. And
yeah.
all of us need ownership of that.
And that's where the disruption happens, right? This is a disruption movement. This is about
Yes.
breaking down the cycles of what no longer is working, breaking down the silos of healthcare and empowering people, because as long as we feel disempowered, we will experience being disempowered, right? As
Yes.
long as we think that there's nothing more that we can do. We can't do anything about our health. We can't
Yeah.
do anything about our wealth. We can't do anything about, we're going to experience that. And what is I love about the FAM movement, and it so aligns with what I'm doing with Enable No More and my own personal journey. It's the moment I recognized what I did have control over was the moment that I took back control. And when it comes to our health, even though we might not have a cure for the thing that we're experiencing, like endometriosis, right? There's ways to manage it, and it's not a one size fits all approach. And the individuals that are signing up and saying, I want to be part of the family, the PHAMILY, I want to take a front seat, driver's seat control of my health. And the FAMbassadors of professionals, they are healthcare professionals, but they're everyday Canadians. They're business owners. You don't have to be a healthcare professional to join the family. This is the movement. It is for everybody. It is for anybody who wants to take back control of their health to live healthier, happier, longer lives in a
Yes.
healthy way. And the people that are part of this movement are embodying, they've already integrated this in their own lives. They're not just talking about it, they're living it, they're doing it. Is it perfect? No, because nothing ever is. But it's about showing up the best version of yourself, knowing what your options are. Right? I say this all the time. You can walk into the liquor store and look at the rows and rows of alcohol that you can select from on any given day. Or walk down your grocery store aisle in the cereal aisle and look at all the sugar cereals or cereals that are in that aisle. We need to have the same amount of options for our healthcare, for our options for what can I do today to improve my health.
Indeed. And I do think the one big piece, which is what I love most about this, and I'm watching it in real time, is like you said, you don't have to do this alone and it's in community. One of the most rewarding things as the founder of this mission, as the founder of Wallis for Wellness that I sold 4 years ago, I didn't sell Wallis for Wellness, but the practice was taken on by somebody else, but Wallis for Wellness remains. It's just morphed into this new version, this 2.0 version. And that is this, that watching the collaboration result in not only better impact and improvement in health for everyday Canadians, but the growth and referrals back and forth amongst the family. It's a very simple thing. My parents have always told me this. You reap what you sow. You get out what you put in. And when we get so tied up in our own egos, or I know it all, or even I'm going to do this and I don't need help by anybody else, you limit so much of your own potential. in every aspect of well-being, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial. So when I'm watching ambassadors referring to other ambassadors, cardiologists referring to a breathwork person, and a gynecologist referring, it fills my heart, because I had hoped that would be the case when I started this awareness, educational, social enterprise campaign, health social enterprise campaign. But what I'm seeing actually happen is everybody's boat is elevated. So when we are willing to work and learn and grow from one another, and
Yes.
that makes a better world. And there's never been, in my opinion, and I'm not going to get political, but there's never been a more important time in our history than to get back to the basics. And why do you think I called it FAM, PHAM, family? Because what's a family supposed to be for? It takes a village.
Yeah.
And we've been, especially since the pandemic, people feel so isolated, alone. They're behind these screens. They're not being felt, seen, and heard, and connected. And the only way to do that is for you to take some ownership. And we are creating platforms and opportunities on a wide range of ways so that you can feel seen, heard, and a part of something. So this is the call to action. Join the family. Be part of what we're doing, because I'm not doing this alone. You're not doing this alone. And together we're going to be better. And I'm here for that journey, because I'm telling you, every day I learn something new from the ambassadors that are growing from the wide range of businesses. And that's what I'm here for. And so I'm holding the reins tight. And it's not easy, because this is unfunded. It's been a lot of work. I'm not saying that for poor me, but we've also given like almost $10,000 of money back to charities over the course of the last, not just since FAM, but in the last 6 years prior to FAM, because I started during the pandemic.
Incredible. The fundraisers that you do through your events, the giving back to community, because community is unity. And in unity, there's opportunity and possibilities. And that's really what this movement to me is. It's about creating more opportunities through awareness, through research, to learn more about what we don't know. Because we don't know what we don't know. And that comes and applies to science as well. It's constantly evolving. And Jared, my son, where he did a GoFundMe page after he had relapsed after a year and a half of sobriety and recovery, because they're two different things in my world. And he started a GoFundMe page, and FAM generously donated to his GoFundMe through an event, through the Stronger Through Midlife event that took place in Ottawa, that launched FAM for 2026, which was really exciting. So this is the way that FAM is giving back as well. More than just, it's education, it's awareness, it's events, it's actionable tools and resources to help you today, like right now, if you want that help. And also giving back to things like donating to different causes and supporting things within the communities, which is just, that's what it's all about, because we are not meant to do this alone. We really are truly not. But again, programs is that we have to do it alone. The COVID thing, the isolation, it's like, these are part of the breaking down the systems that we're talking about here. So there's so much. We could talk forever and for hours. We'll have you back on, because we're going to continue to follow the FAM movement and all the things that you're breaking ground on, because it's constantly evolving. And that's what gets to happen when you become the CEO of your health, your happiness, and your life. You're constantly evolving, and opportunities continue to open up. And that applies to all aspects of this thing called life. So where can people—
And before we go, before we go, I want to give a shout out to Global Coin Solutions, which is our charity partner. We raise money in many different ways, from events, but also with your foreign currency. There's an estimated $2 billion of foreign currency in the bedside table of Canadians. You can't buy coffee with it. You can't do anything with it, but we can convert it into Canadian currency through our partnership with Global Coin Solutions and Scott Hutchings, and convert that back into where we get to donate. We've got some foreign currency here today that's going to be donated back into worthwhile causes locally, where we can make a difference. So where can you find me? wallisforwellness.com or become the CEO of your health.com. You want to go to ceoofyourhealth.ca and get on the wait list for the hub that's coming, which is an online community. It's not only got a signature course that can help you walk through the process and Dr. Christy Prowse is our chief medical advisor, over 40 45 video lessons, an 80-page workbook, but then there's a healthcare toolbox where all these different people were adding to it. You're in there, but so many other healthcare professionals are in there to help you figure things out, whether it's you need a recipe or whatever it would be. But the biggest thing about the hub that I'm most excited about is the integration of live webinars where you get up close and personal with all different types of healthcare professionals, from surgeons to naturopaths to everything in between, so that you can feel connected, heard from, and to ask questions, because even finding a doctor right now can be challenging. So yeah, CEO of your health. And then please go to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Become the CEO of Your Health, and follow on Instagram, Become the CEO of Your Health, and Facebook as well. I am all over the place.
I love it. That's awesome, because we want to make it easy for our listeners to find you. And Margaret, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for showing people the way forward to really recognize what is in their power to move forward, that they can become the CEO of their health, no matter what age or stage of life that they are in. I look at what you've done and the work that you've done. You work with babies. Actually, you work with in vitro. So like before, it's the span of people that you work with. It is never too late. And this applies to like mental health, addiction, anything. It is never too late to begin taking better care of your health.
Jen, look at what we did. I know we got to go because this has been a long podcast, but we just have so much to talk about. When we did, shout out to Amica, one of our biggest supporters, Amica. Yes. And Kimberly Bertrand, who's a magnificent leader in that space. We went to, during FAM this year, did a wellness bell ringer with a group of seniors at Amica Erin Mills. And it was a wellness passport, and we had different stations. And both of us witnessed a 90-year-old lady coming up with tears streaming down her face. It was the first time she had done breath work and yoga. I was talking to her about nervous system regulation. There was tapping. We talked, Nancy Brooker, talking about tapping. And she said, I was skeptical, and now I believe. She was 90 years old. Yeah. That's the type of world I want to live in, where it's never too late until we take our last breath. And that is an homage to my dad, because that is what he taught me. Fail forward and often, live with an open heart and your hands on. And it's never too late to lean in and learn. And he did that right up until his last breath at 88 years of age. So I feel my father every day in this, as do I my mom, because tell you, together, and him included, I know he's got a hand in this from above, but it's never too late. So thank you for mentioning that, because it's an inclusive campaign.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because I was going to ask you if there is one message or something that you would like somebody to hear that could empower them today. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with and leave the listener with?
It's never too late. You're worthy. We're here. And start now.
Beautiful.
Whatever it is, ask for help. It's okay. And you don't live where the butterflies are. You don't have to have the answers. You just have to get curious, because the ripple effect will take you places you had no idea. Just start. Just start.
Beautiful. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for joining us today. What an inspiration. We'll continue to follow you with the FAM movement and all the beautiful offerings that you have out in this world to help people become the CEO of their health. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jen. And you keep doing what you're doing, because it's remarkable to watch.
Aw, thank you. The biggest thanks for tuning in for another episode of Enable No More, Take Back Your Power podcast. If you loved this episode, I invite you to share it with a friend or tag me on social media. I'd love to hear what landed for you. And if you feel called, please take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star review. It helps this podcast grow and reach more people who need it. Until next time, remember, disrupt the pattern and take back your power.